Hey there, Orest. Andrew here once again. Let's have a look into this particular essay and see, well, first of all, actually, I can already see that you have responded well to the task. Your response is appropriate. You do consider both parts of the question. We're all good there. So let's just move through and correct your sentences. So, whereas some people believe that creativity has to be, or, I mean, this is correct, but we could just use must be. Must be protected by copyright laws, comma. Others argue, plural, others argue that there are some drawbacks related to this. I opine that legal protection of the original works or arts I think just works is fine, because even an artistic work would still be considered a work. And I wouldn't use this is unnecessary. When we say that something is clear, then we're kind of insulting the reader, because we're saying it's obvious. We don't need to write about it. It's clear. So it's best just to leave that out. So I opine that, I missed that. I opine that legal protection of the original works is advantageous. Also, we should get rid of that, because we're talking about any original works, not a specific original work. So I opine that legal protection of original works is advantageous in promoting creativity and outweighs the shortcomings. Fine. But we could really do with saying what the shortcomings are, because in this question, do copyright laws limit or reward creativity? So you say that it's advantageous in promoting creativity. I suppose it's okay, because the alternative is, of course, limiting creativity. But I would advise being more specific with both sides here, because you just say the drawbacks and the shortcomings, but we don't delve into at all what those things are. So as a result, the efficiency of our society, I would say, could be improved as well. Or maybe we could say, as a result of the enforcement of such rules, the efficiency of our society could be improved as well. First of all, nowadays, making and producing creative art requires a substantial investment. We don't need the article there. Copyright laws award some exclusive rights to the artists or authors, enabling them to copy, sell, and perform their works publicly. It should be. Award some exclusive rights to the artists or authors, enabling them to copy, sell, and perform their works publicly. Therefore, this can generate revenue and recoups the cost. So this needs to be swapped around a little bit just to make it, because this can generate revenue and recoups the costs. Which, in turn, boosts creative power, or, in turn, boosting creative power. But I would, no, actually that's fine. So this should be to take an example, like this, to take an example, or take for example. But I like to take an example. Now here there's a problem with this statistic. 70% exactly of about 1 million American songwriters' incomes. So we have a specific proportion of an indefinite quantity. Now we can't have that. If we know that it's 70% of income comes from royalties, then we should know the total number. So it would be better if we just got rid of this. Or, actually, that's better. 70% of the average American songwriter's income comes from royalty fees that are only possible due to copyright regulations. It offers a decent living for many of them, and an extraordinary wealth for a few. What a good sentence. Okay, now this is a very good paragraph. We have a good supporting example, a fine expansion. I really did only have to make very small corrections there. Secondly, because the copyrighted contents are not for free, everybody needs to pay. Okay, so I would use since here. Because is a little bit overused. Since the copyrighted contents are not available for free or not free, either one of those. But since I'm against using extra words, and here we would call anyone who did not produce them or anyone who was not involved with the production a third party. So, since the copyrighted contents are not free, third parties must pay royalty fees or get permission in order to be able to use them. Therefore, it can, to some extent, interfere with a person's own creative project. Okay. When using prior works to support a dissertation, thesis, or article. Now that makes sense. I understand perfectly what you were saying, but it threw me off at the end. For example, I experience very often in my daily routine while writing scientific papers. Here we can use a semicolon because these are related. The majority of high-quality supporting publications, I would just say that are required. Try to avoid using I in body paragraphs. It's okay if you're going to use it once or twice, but we need to depersonalize our work. We don't really want to involve ourselves or the reader too heavily in the work. We want to stay as detached as possible. The majority of high-quality supporting publications that are required to bring my message, not massage, in a clearer and more dramatic manner are ineligible for free download. In conclusion, I've just noticed something. You did raise this here, but then you have not discussed it further down. Anything that's raised in the introduction must be discussed in the body. Because in your introduction you've raised this idea that society could function better, but then we have not discussed it at all, and we have not concluded it either. So this would be picked up on by the examiner as a weak spot. Whenever we have a two-part question like this, we must discuss both parts of the question in the intro, discuss the first part here, the second part here, and then conclude both parts. Both parts must feature the entire way through the essay in a consistent and coherent manner. So, in conclusion, copyright laws are undoubtedly favourable in rewarding creativity. It is predicted that it will persist long into the future and that governments will enact measures to facilitate their improvement. Fine, but this bit. So that's my biggest criticism. You raised a point and you didn't discuss it. Best thing to do with these two-part questions, first part in this paragraph, second part in this paragraph. Conclude both. Otherwise, this was a very good response. Just make sure that you do include the detail on every part of the question. But let's have a look at your next piece. So the bar chart below, or it may not be below, so maybe the bar chart provided, shows 4 origins of calories for UK males. It's not necessarily in relation to age, so I would say of 3 ages or of 3 age groups. The highest percentage of calories Okay, so the problem we have here, let me just explain how we do a task 1. So with the task 1, this first sentence up here is a definition where we define the terms of the graph. We give what are we talking about is here. Here, we then give an overall statement. So what's missing from here is the age groups. It seems that we don't mention how old these people are at any time. So even if we just did this, and I would use a verb here. The highest percentage of calories taken from dairy emerges in the youngest age group, with about 43% of total intake. So let's, especially at the start of a description, let's be as detailed as possible. We need to make sure that what you should imagine is that the examiner will not see this. I mean, they will, but if you imagine that they will not have the graph, then you have to describe every single aspect of it. What we want to do is build up an image of the graph in the examiner's mind, step by step. So we need to define the graph first. What are the terms? What are the groups? What are we talking about? Then an overall statement. So what are the main things we can see happening in the graph? And then we discuss the detail of the overall statement. But we must make sure that we make the examiner aware of the age groups. Followed by a roughly similar distribution for meat, pulses and vegetables with 20, 20 and... Oh, you've already said roughly. Let's use approximately here then, just to be a bit more scientific. Okay, I like that. In the second group, 25 to 49 years. You could say calorie intake or caloric intake. This would be a descriptive term. Okay, so this phrasing is slightly off. Is more than double that of the other two groups at 50, and it's fine just to use that, by the way. We would have to use it after every number, though, in this case. And we don't pluralize percentages. So, caloric intake from meat is more than double that of the other two groups at 50%, whereas for the other three sources, I would use again, whereas consumption of the other three sources, dairy, pulses, and vegetables, I wouldn't use the past tense because this is not something that was measured in a specific year. This is just data given generally. So I think we should say declines. Consumption of the other three sources, dairy, pulses, and vegetables, declines at 25, 10, and 15% respectively. I'm not quite sure how to correct this, one sec. I would say the steepest climb is seen in pulses in the eldest age group, which is, 50 plus years. The steepest climb is seen in pulses in the eldest age group, comma, at 75% of intake. While vegetable consumption dropped to the lowest I would say the lowest value in the same group, dairy and meat intake fell to their lowest values. At 15 and 20%. There. Overall, intake of dairy and vegetables steadily declines with age. This is good. This is exactly what we're looking for in these task ones, is a discussion of trends, changes over time. This is the sign of a band 8 response when we begin to discuss trends properly. I mean, we must improve the coherence and cohesion of the remainder of your paragraphs and make sure that we're doing things like, so we don't have to do this throughout the essay. We could actually define it here. Actually, namely 0 to 24, 25 to 49, and over 50 years of age. And that way, when we say the youngest age group, we know what we're talking about, and we don't have to do this then. So wait one sec. In contrast to meat and pulses, which reach their consumption peaks in the middle age group and in the oldest group, respectively. That's fine. So all in all, good, but we need to make sure that we are clear on our terms, what's going on in the graph, and there were some coherence and cohesion issues there. I did have to rearrange some of the sentences. Now this is getting a bit long, so I'm going to send this straight back to you and plod on with some others. But I look forward to your next stuff. Have a great day. Goodbye for now.